Welcome back to Five Drinks or Midnight. Now, the show, we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks. We try to wrap up before midnight. We're getting back to normal schedule, episode 101. We're talking to Bernie Lubbers, Heaven Hills Whiskey Ambassador. But before we do, like and subscribe, hit the bells, the whistles. You know what to do. Leave a comment if you like what we're doing. Let's get started. For joining us. Five Drinks or Midnight, 5 drinks, 5 questions, midnight, whatever comes first. Sir, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Tim. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you again for agreeing to do the show. It was a pleasure meeting you at Travel Bar that other night, and it was so much fun, and that whole Elijah Craig sample making, it was so much fun. It was amazing. So again, thank you so much for making time, and I know you're a busy man, and I really do appreciate you being on the show.
It's my pleasure. That was a great night, and having to make our own small batches, and everybody got to take home their own small batch of the rarest bourbon in the world.
Yeah, it was freaking amazing. Unfortunately, mine didn't make it home. I drank it like right after the bar, but I guess, let's just jump right into it. First question, not even first question, but what are we drinking first?
Yeah, well, I think the whiskey sour is an underrated drink. I hardly see it on menus. Every time I order it, bartenders' eyes light up and they love making it. And it's not a complicated drink. It's a refreshing drink, good summer drink.
Yeah.
And I just like to start with that because hearkening back to when I grew up, I just turned 64. So my parents and their peer group, that was a big drink. That was either a highball, but boy, if you got a whiskey sour, that was a cocktail in that world. I mean, that was something.
that was like a Friday night drink. Like I remember, like my grandparents and like my parents, like we'd go out for fish fry, but like the whiskey sour was always like that was like the end of the night kind of cocktail. Like that was always like supper clubs and fish fries. Like that was the end of the night kind of thing. Are you an egg white guy or non-egg white guy?
I like both. I don't have egg whites at home, but so I just go the old school way at home, and I just do it the way my Aunt Bernadine taught me.
Excellent.
The way she taught me is you put a little fresh juice, lemon juice is what most everybody uses, but she'd like to throw in a little bit of lime juice too.
Oh,
and add simple syrup and give it a shake and pour it out.
There we go.
It's just such a cool. Just making this drink brings back memories of when we all entertained quite a bit at the house, especially in the summertime. So, cheers, man.
Cheers. You're right. That is such a good summer drink. Like you just can't go wrong with that. Like that is. It's so good. It's so refreshing and light, and again we made it with the Evan Williams 1783, which was even better. So like that is
absolutely
fucking delicious. So there we go.
Talk about underrated. That it is. We changed the proof on this a couple of years ago. It's been about 2 years now, and it was an 86 proof product. 43 ABV, and then we changed it and raised it. How many people are raising proofs these days?
Yeah, everybody's usually cutting them. So
raising it to 90 proof, I'm not saying it really gets over if you're going to make a Manhattan or something that's boozy forward, Boulevard EA or something like that. You might want to use a bottle and bond or higher. But for a whiskey sour, 90 proof, 92, 94, 90 to 100 proof, just fine. You can even use 80 to 90.
And again, that the citrus and bourbon, you just can't go wrong.
Yeah. And you get, now, when I was at, before I worked at Heaven Hill, I was at Jim Beam for almost 7 years. And we always, for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, we made Miss Annis's bourbon sours, and that's Fred No's mom, Booker No's wife. And many years she was there with us making them for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And Miss Annis would be there. She goes, now, it wasn't a complicated recipe. It's not even a secret. It's, the way she did it, because you're making a lot of them.
Sure, batching them.
Hundreds, if not thousands, for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And so you would take frozen concentrated lemon juice.
Okay.
And then a can of that is 12 ounces. Okay. And then you fill that with water because it's concentrated. And then you fill that with orange juice without the pulp. And then you fill that again with 12 ounces of bourbon.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 1, 1, 1.
1, 1. That's the best. Even a guy like me can do that recipe.
Put a pitcher. If you make that in a pitcher or batch that for friends coming over, you will be, men and women, everybody loves that drink. And then especially when you get to say it's Miss Annis's recipe.
There you go. Perfect. Well, I think that leads perfectly into question 1, because again, how does a guy that was a loan officer, a comedian, a rock star, and now the whiskey professor, how did you get started in the whiskey business?
Well, yeah, the whiskey business kind of came to me.
Okay.
So in the 1990s, I was a touring stand-up comedian. My banking career was very short. It was only 2.5 years after college. I realized that back in the mid-'80s, the only positive thing about working at a bank is you always knew the time and temperature if you looked out.
Time and temperature from TD Bank.
There's nothing good about it. So I hit the road as a stand-up comic and spent 20 years doing that. Because I could stand up in front of people and present, there was a group in town looking to raise money for CASA, court-appointed special advocates, a very great cause. And it was kind of a bartender's kind of a ball. It was a Sunday night fundraiser, so a lot of industry folks were in it. And I was on that board for many, many years, and I was the host of the event. So I would stand up and I would welcome people, and it wasn't really, but it was, we had like an auction and things like that. So anyway, it was out. And so I got to meet. We had a feature of the ball that was called Meet Your Maker.
Okay.
And Bill Samuels would be there, and Fred No would be there, and all the master stores. That's back when Julian and Preston Van Winkle would be there, and they would have bottles of the 10, 12, 15, 20, and 23, all for sampling, because nobody was buying the stuff, right?
Yeah.
It was 6 deep on the shelves, $79 a bottle.
Yeah.
How dare they charge that much? And so there was a way for them to taste. And so I got to know a lot of the bourbon people just from that ball. And then when Jim Beam in 2005, they needed someone to interview and get a job to represent the brands in the Kentucky market. And I interviewed and got that job.
Okay.
And that's how I got into the business. And then once I got in there, I was like, well, this is going to be a short-term job. This is just for however they need this promotion done. I need to find a way to exploit this and worm my way in and be able to work with Fred. And then serendipity and good timing came along. I guess as a comedian, you have good timing, but luck is one of the bigger things. At that time, in about 2006, Fred No's picture was going on the side of the Jim Beam bottle as the 7th generation master distiller. And he was going to be on a big worldwide tour just for Jim Beam brand.
Okay.
And they started noticing a little uptick in the Knob Creek and the small batch numbers, and they wanted to have 3. They hired 3 of us, 3 ambassadors, to represent the bourbons. And so me and 2 guys were the first 3 non-Beam family members to represent the brands. I didn't realize that until a few years later. That would have scared the hell out of me if I had realized. But I was too dumb to be scared, so I just went ahead and said, "Hey, this is going to be fun. This is what I want to do." So I've been the ambassador since 2006, and then in 2012, Heaven Hill wooed me over, and Beam was an awesome company. That there was a lot of changes happening. They were changing ownership. There was things happening. There was a little uncertainty, and they also had shifted, things around. So, I was vulnerable, and then I came over, and I've been here at Heaven Hill since September of 2012, and I've loved every minute at both distilleries. It's been an amazing trip, and I still keep in touch with everybody over there. But working with Conroe Driscoll, being able to work with Parker Beam when I first came over for the first few years was quite amazing, and a great learning experience.
Awesome.
It's pretty crazy. I think I've learned from Jerry Dalton, Fred No, Parker Beam, Craig Beam, Charlie Downs, Jody Filiatru, a lot of the other. I mean, these people, some of them are on my Mount Rushmore of bourbon. So to be able to work with them intimately has been amazing.
Same. I mean, that's absolutely. So then what's harder, doing stand-up at like a really tough crowd, or presenting to a lot of taters and like for everybody that seems to be like know-it-alls?
Well, it's a lot less pressure to have to get a laugh every 15 seconds. It was kind of I never really had any bad tater experiences.
Okay.
When I find that people get a little upset or something, or they're just passionate, and then I always tell them, I kind of disarm. I did comedy for so long. I think I can handle a heckler or two, but you really have to do it different. These are customers. You can't just slam them. Yep. And I was like, hey man, I feel your passion. I love that you're passionate about it. And and then I always go back to, I don't own the company, so I don't get the final say.
Yeah.
So don't kill the messenger here. I did tell one guy at New Orleans Bourbon Festival, this is back when we had just taken the 12-year age statement off of the small batch of Elijah Craig, around 2013 or 14, somewhere around there. And we did it poorly, by the way. We moved it from the front and then moved the age statement to the back without putting out a press release. But what people don't realize, this happened all the time over the decades.
Right.
No one everybody was learning about social media and all this stuff. So you just made decisions. I remember when I started in 2005, Jack Daniels was 90 proof. And then a couple of years later, they lowered it to 86 proof. No word, no nothing. Nobody said anything. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, they lowered it to 80 proof. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
Social media. There was no bourbon club. And then all of a sudden, Maker's Mark lowered theirs. Oh boy, the world came apart, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you can say, that's when social media really, boom, was there. And so we did it poorly. We did it badly. And so, it was part of my job to go out and get confronted by people, but be honest. Hey, look, this is what we did. We did it wrong. Sorry, but this is what's happening. We also keeping the age statement on the barrel proof, so there will always be a age statement. And then now that's changing a little bit because we're going to do different ages, so it'll be lower or higher. If it's 15 years old, that's not bad, right? So anyway, people will be mad about that too. That's fine. But I told him, and he just wasn't accepting the answer I was giving at all. And I finally looked at him. There was 100 people in the room, and our master of silver, Denny Potter, was over here. Teammate Jack Choate, my West Coast ambassador, is over here. And I said, well, sir, it looks like I'm not going to say anything to make you happy, but I do have some advice for you then. If you want everything to go your way, you take 150 million of your own dollars and you open up your own damn distillery.
Yep.
And you make all the decisions.
There you go. If you know it all, you should be doing it. So
and laughed.
Yeah. Then, so how did the Whiskey Professor come about?
So that was something that there was the three of us at Jim Beam, and we were going to be the ambassadors for Knob Creek, the small batch, which was basically Knob Creek. You couldn't give Booker's away back then. Baker's was smaller than Booker's. Basil Hayden was decent selling, but it was just a few dozen, tens of thousands of cases. Nothing like it is today. And so we're like, well, we don't want to be just ambassadors, because Maker's Mark still has that very successful ambassador program. So it's people go, I'm an ambassador too. I'm an ambassador too. Like we had to do something that separated us, and because we were going to be educational, we decided to call ourselves whiskey professors.
Gotcha.
And I hated that name at first, just hated it, because it made it sound like I knew everything. At the time, I didn't. And Fred Noe says, well, hell, you probably know more than everybody in the room. That's all you got to know. He said, so you can fake it till you make it, brother. You just give me a text if you need something. I'll answer it on the fly and blah, blah. So he gave me the confidence to fake it till we made it. And then, then over time, you become one. And then those other two gentlemen, the company had reorganized a couple of times, and then I got shifted off into brand education. So everything kind of went away, but I just kind of kept calling myself the Whiskey Professor. And now I kind of made up my own logo, and I kind of own that. So it's kind of neat. Right. Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
So, I mean, I haven't trademarked it or anything. I don't know, whatever. But it's been me for the last 17 years. So it's
awesome. Well, that's freaking amazing. Well, that's question one. See, super easy, not painful at all. And
hey, man, it's just you and me talking like we did at Travel Bar.
Yeah, just two friends sitting at the pub. Just happened to be, in different states. So, all right. Question two, drink two. What are we drinking?
We're going to taste people always ask, what's your favorite other spirits? Yeah. Because, in my world, and I don't know yours as much, but we drink a lot of bourbon, right? Yeah. Probably 99+% of my life, I'm drinking bourbon. And so I love tequila, and I love pretty much anything that's aged. I do appreciate I really like brandies and cognacs, armagnacs. I like some aged rums, but tequila, it sings to me. It's also has some regulations that are cool. You can only make 100% agave in 5 different states of Mexico. It has to be made from only the Blue Weber agave. So I love that. I'm big on that's kind of put me on the map, because words on labels mean things. So bourbon whiskey all means something. Bottle and bond means something, but so does tequila and 100% agave and things like that. So this is a single estate tequila. This is Luna Azul tequila. That means blue moon. So that's kind of why the Blanco is blue, and they have the wolf howling at the moon.
All right.
Really, Francesco's our master distiller, his dog. That's really a picture of his dog, but it comes wolf. And and even though I love aged spirits, tequila is a Blanco, or the unaged, or silver, or platinum, some people call it. But the unaged is what really they drink down in Mexico, because that's the heart of the spirit. And then if you want a reposado, which is, just several months in a used barrel, the way Carlos Camarena described it to me is like, if you have a beautiful painting, you don't want to distract the painting with the big gaudy frame. Okay?
Yeah.
So the painting itself is gorgeous, and if you do, you just want a very tasteful frame, and that would be a reposado.
Okay.
And then an añejo would be also tasteful, but just be a larger frame. He says, but everybody loves the painting. Right?
Everybody loves.
Cheers. Cheers. And that Luna Azul with that agave, the sweetness of the agave.
That's damn good.
Right? And a little peppery, in the finish, which is indicative of a lot of tequilas. And just depending on the house styles, and that's the other great thing. There's hundreds and hundreds of tequila distilleries, and now there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bourbon distilleries. The way I always describe it is, why we're all making the same thing. Why do they taste different?
Yeah.
It's house style. It's how do you do your fermentation, especially with the agaves? Are you cutting them and cooking them? Are you using a shortcut? What are you doing? What are you doing to get the most flavor out? Or are you just making a ton of it just to throw it in a bottle and add mixto to it and add what you can do? You can do everything to anything. But I just love the 100% pure agave, and this Luna's just a great little brand. That it's another family-owned company this family that owns it, the Beckman family, Jorge Beckman. His family back in the day had Cuervo.
Okay.
And they sold that, decades and decades ago. They couldn't make any money on the tequila. It was like $3 or $4 a bottle. I mean, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
So they sold that off, but they owned all the agriculture. They raised avocados and limes and agave, and there was more money in that. And then when Patron came out and did what they did to the tequila world and just say, this is $35. This is the best tequila in the world. They didn't even call it tequila. They just said Patron.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were drinking it, had no idea it was tequila because it certainly didn't taste like what they had in college, right?
Yeah.
And so it really redefined the tequila world. And then the Beckman said, well, shoot, now it's worth it for us to get in the business. We can do it cheaper since we own the agave fields. So they partnered with the Shapira family, our family that owns Heaven Hill, and said, we don't have the distribution, but you do. So let's do a 50-50 handshake on this, and we'll split this, right? And so we'll make it, you sell it, and we'll all get
paid.
And make a little dollar or two. So for $15, $17 a bottle, they had what Patron had and more. And of course, everybody needs to put a product in their margaritas in a restaurant. I mean, you got to make money at it. It's hard to put. Patron's an amazing product, but it's hard to put that in a drink and make money.
Exactly, because no one wants to pay $35 for a margarita. So it's
even in South Beach, Tim. Even with a Corona pouring into it, and I don't even know if you can get one for $35 down there anymore. I think it's more than that.
Well, all right. Well, so question 2, tequila is pretty much on the rise as far as like the number one spirit, especially like here in New York. For the first time ever, tequila is actually outselling bourbon. Do you think that is a fad, or do you think that like bourbon is on the decline, or is bourbon's going to bounce back, or is tequila kind of going to be the main spirit for a while?
There's a little bit of you. If you have a crystal ball, you tell me. No, I think that it's probably going to keep going. But they have been on an incline for 20 years before bourbon.
Yeah.
So they've had a lot longer to gain more momentum. And so it's also an aged product, remember. Bourbon is an aged product.
Yeah, but
so we have a few challenges that they don't have. And so I think that right now we're all building a new distillery that mirrors our distillery, and that's one of the largest bourbon distilleries in the world. So we're increasing production, but once we do, we got to wait 4 years before
yeah.
So the fact that there's several things going, it's never just one thing, but the fact tequila, I remember reading back in the 90s, and my dad would say, can you believe that tequila, they say tequila is the next thing? And that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Bourbon certainly wasn't on the incline in the 90s.
No.
So they've had about 20 years ahead of us. And so that's just that momentum, I think. Now, just full disclosure, I got a 2.6 cumulative in college at University of Kentucky in marketing. I don't have big degrees, but I can see, I have eyes, and I've been in the industry. And I think that's part of the thing. And there's also, tequila is pretty versatile, and when it comes to drinks, but we have all that too. And right now, the industry would like to pass Scotch in sales by 2030.
Yeah.
So I think we can do it too. I mean, we're on the rise, and tequila's on the rise, and I think that we own vodkas too, and that if you're just a vodka company, I would be a little nervous right now.
Do you think, because I know that like during the pandemic or the, our vacation when everybody stayed home and just drank a shit ton of booze, but like tequila mezcal was like really kind of ramping up then because people were trying a lot of stuff that they would normally not go out and drink at. So like you're at a pub, like now, like, we drink bourbon when we're out or, but like, unless you really know the brand, a tequila brand or a mezcal brand, you wouldn't really pick it. And I think the pandemic kind of gave us that opportunity. Do you kind of feel the same way, or do you think that
I think you're onto that, because you might be more inclined to buy a $50 bottle of mezcal or tequila and try it than you don't have the option of being at the bar and having a $10 pour.
Right.
But if you're at home and you're saving all this money and you're like, I always wanted to try that, and you probably had a little more time to talk to your liquor store people and say, what would be a good thing to try?
Yep.
And I'm sure there was a lot of that going on. I kind of know what I wanted, so I didn't really get into any of that. But that was the time, because really, unless I'm doing a podcast, this is my bar at home, but I really don't drink at home. I only drink if I'm doing a podcast or if I have friends over.
Okay. Same.
If I'm home drinking by myself, just sitting here, I've got a problem, right? So, I drink enough out and do stuff, but I love sharing drinks when I'm with people. So I had to really turn my brain during that lockdown time that it's okay to drink at home.
Yeah.
And I sure took advantage of it, and I drank stuff I usually don't ever drink. I drank White Russians with ice cream in them, in a blender, like a milkshake with whipped cream, Burnett's vodka. Just all the guilty pleasures that you wouldn't really do.
I would pay to see money of you just kind of walking around being like Jeff Bridges as the dude, and just being in your like bathrobe, just walking around your apartment with a milkshake. And
I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me,
Yeah, just walking around. Yeah, I always made the joke during when we did Zooms and stuff, and like I'd just be like, yeah, I just gotta pass like the DUI checkpoint from my office to the bedroom, so the kitchen is always like the DUI checkpoint. So like I was like, as long as I'm good, I can make it home. So yeah.
Right. I mean, gosh, it feels like 10 years ago, doesn't it?
It does. Like, it's so crazy. Like, honestly, like, and that's like too, like with the event again, not keep going back to Travel Bar, but like the event like that, it was so great to just see a packed bar, and like Travel Bar to be everybody was at a seat, and it was really amazing. Like, it really was just something that was super cool. And kudos to Mike, and for you guys coming to Travel Bar. Like, it just was one of the coolest events I think I've been at for a very long time, and be able to walk away with my own blend was absolutely amazing.
Hope we get to do it again sometime there. These are old Heaven Hill glasses from
very nice.
And they have lines on them on the back. It's a 1 ounce pour, says mild.
Okay.
1.5 ounce pour says regular, and the 2 ounce pour says rich.
Rich.
Well, I wish we made those now.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Well, question 3, drink 3. What are we drinking?
Yeah. So this is a drink that is named after me in one bar in Louisville, Kentucky. And it's spreading, though.
Very nice.
So I don't think it's any shock. This is one of my favorite products. This is the back of my phone. So that's I always joke that's the annual marketing budget for Mellow Corn. It's just a label on a clear case. But I love Mellow Corn, and in general, I love aged corn whiskey because I love the history of it. I teach I do an evolution of bourbon tasting, where we taste unaged corn whiskey, the genesis of what was going to become bourbon 150 years later. There had to be a first genesis, as the catfish that crawls out of the lake onto the ground and points our way towards bourbon. And that's that same corn whiskey aged in a used barrel. That's why it's a light straw color today. And then we taste larceny bourbon and find out how wheat came into the equation and why there's so few bourbons with wheat in it. And then we talk about the rye whiskeys from the north, and then bottle and bond, and then we go into the small batch and single barrel bourbons that brought it back. So it's an evolution. You can't talk about bourbon unless you talk about aged corn whiskey. It's historic. It is pivotal. We would not have bourbon because the barrels of those used barrels, but they burned the inside of them out from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia when they got down here in Kentucky. and we were going to fill those barrels with whiskey and send them down to St. Louis and New Orleans. Well, they had pickling agents in those barrels, whatever was packed in those barrels before, so pickles or fish or whatever. So we burned the inside of the barrel out, and then that drew those sugars towards the edges of the wood. And as the barrel sat on those boats, rafts going down the river, it was like the first rick houses. It was really aging.
Yeah.
And we were just using it to transport. So there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of history. And that's just one reason I love bourbon, talking about bourbon. And you can't talk about bourbon without aged corn whiskey. So when Expo was opening in downtown Louisville, right on Main Street, right next to the 2nd Street Bridge, they were saying, boy, we want to have our house old fashioned with a bourbon you could have gotten here 150 years ago. And I'm like, well, it really wouldn't have been bourbon. It would have been aged corn whiskey. Even the brands that were out back then it was corn whiskey, and there weren't any regulations on barrels. So it would have been more like an aged, they were calling it bourbon, but it would have been more like an aged corn whiskey.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they love that being right there on Main Street. So to this day, if you go in and you order a house old fashioned without specifying a brand, they make it with mellow corn.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, it's only $5.
All right.
Mellow corn is not that expensive, so it makes it to where it's good, still good profit and good for the customer.
And it will knock you on your ass.
Gets people placed on the street. You can't get it's 12, $15 anywhere else.
Yeah.
I love it. And they keep the empty bottles of mellow corn all around the bar and everything. It's really cool. And it's a great cocktail bar because it's owned by the people that own Portland Cocktail Week and Camp Runnemuk. So the cocktails are spot on.
Excellent.
And I said, well, I'll have my thing. But I said, my favorite drink is a Paloma with mellow corn.
Okay.
So I would always order that, after the old fashioned. And let's taste it and see how good.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. And mellow corn doesn't substitute with every tequila drink, but with this one, it does a really great job.
It does really. This is amazing. This is super nice.
And so, it's just a Paloma. So I use Squirt today. You could use Doritos or you could use Fresca, whatever, grapefruit soda.
Yeah.
A squeeze of citrus. I use a lime, but you can use different. And then it's the mellow corn. And so I went to Expo. And unbeknownst to me, they had named the drink, and other people were ordering it, and they never told me they had named a drink after me, because I'm sitting there after the Elton John concert at the stadium, at the Yum Center, and I'm sitting in the bar because it's close to the Yum Center, and a girl next to me orders a Lubby. Well, my last name is Lubbers.
Yeah.
I looked over. And then she didn't know me. She didn't know who I was. I didn't know who the girl was. And then the bartender, Caleb, goes, "Oh yeah, that's named after you. That's your Paloma." And I went, "What?" And then I looked up because their menu's on poster board, and he goes, "Oh no, it's not up on the poster board. It's not on the menu. You got to be one of the cool kids to know about it." So
all right.
So if you go into Expo Bar and you order a Lubby, they will say, "Oh, you must know Bernie," and they're making the drink. So.
Well, there we go. Everybody go and order a Lubby.
But another great refreshing drink. I'm always, when I go to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, quite a bit for vacation, and they don't drink. The only people that drink margaritas down there are American tourists.
Yeah.
The drink, the Coca-Cola of Mexico is Squirt.
Okay.
And grapefruit soda. They grow a lot of citrus down there, grapefruits.
Yeah.
So that's their drink. And so that's the drink. And when you're on vacation and you're next to a pool, my joke is, because I always promote drinking wisely. But you can only have 5 or 6 margaritas. That acid gets to you.
Yeah.
But a Paloma, I can drink these all day long.
There you go. Absolutely.
And it's clean, it's refreshing, it's nice. That grapefruit comes through. The whiskey's not powerful, so it doesn't overpower it. And that mellow corn is sweet. Whiskey, you don't taste the rye at all. So it's front of the palate. It's all very cool.
So question 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of touched a little bit about it on question one, which was one, don't shoot the messenger, but also if you think you know it all, you take 150 mil of your own money and open up your own distillery.
Right.
But again, because you guys are independently owned, family owned, and you are the ambassador / educator for the company, but I'm sure that you really wear many different hats throughout you're not just, it's just not traveling and drinking. Can you tell us maybe a little bit of the day in the life of you and like what you do and how you do it?
Sure. So I'll just recap my week today. So Monday I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I met with had 30 people from the USBG, which is the United States Bartender Guild. Okay. So you have it's an organization they belong to, but then they have people like me and other people from the industry coming in and giving tastings and trainings and education. So they invited me down. So we had 30 bartenders in a bar, and I did my bourbon through bluegrass like I had done at Penny Joe's a couple of days before I saw you all.
Yeah.
And that's where I play. I'm also a musician, so I bring the stories of corn whiskey and rye whiskey and bourbon whiskey alive and I pair Kentucky whiskey with Kentucky music. So I play live bluegrass music and Merle Travis style tunes and bring the stories alive. And I love it because it's fun for me, and I think it enriches the history and embeds that memory. Because I always thought the tastings were pretty boring, even if you're, even if you've got some incredible whiskeys in front of you. If you're just looking for the marzipan and the vanilla and the honey and caramel, and you're just worried about how old it is, we're done. It's about the people. It's about the stories. It's about who's behind them. It's about the families that own the distilleries, good or bad, the ones that failed and the ones that made it through the other side and all that stuff. So that was great. And then that night, because I played music, it's a live bluegrass music venue called Jane's Hideaway. They invited me to be the opening act for their act that night. So I went back and I played music and I was doing my thing, telling stories on the stage as well as toasting and that. And then a lot of people from that education, and then I had folks from the from the bourbon societies and other people like on TikTok and Instagram that I invited over, and it was pretty cool. And then the next day, I'm talking to our distributor partners who carry most of our brands down there. Lippman Brothers is one of our main distributors down there. And so they're the salespeople that actually sell every bottle. We have a sales team, but we sell to the distributor. Then the distributor sells to bars and restaurants and liquor stores. So it's very important. Part of my job is to educate them on how Heaven Hill whiskeys are different than Jim Beam whiskeys and different than Maker's Mark and different than Four Roses. And of course, those are all amazing whiskeys. You can't say, hey, we're better than them. That's why you need to buy us.
Right.
You can give them the reason why that salesperson can make a sale with our brands, as well as how the other ones fit in there too. So that's important. Then I came back home, and then this morning I sat in on an innovation tasting, and we're dialing in the next Heaven Hill Select and the next Parkers. So I'm at 11 o'clock this morning. I was in our innovation meeting, and I was tasting whiskeys and giving input. And some of them we've already approved, but we just have to dial in the proof. So do we want it to be, 120 proof or 125 proof or 110 proof? Which one does it taste better? Because those brands, that Heaven Hill Select and Park, they can't just taste like good, solid 8-year-old whiskey. No. It's got to taste like the people's names are on it or things like that. And then there's meeting. I had to set up with meet our local salesperson and set up an event for our international team that's coming in. And I've got to do an education for them. So I had to find a venue, work with the owner of that bar along with our salesperson to secure the venue, to tell them we don't want to get in your way of your customers, but we're going to bring a lot of business in and we're going to have fun here at your account. And I'm gonna bring the band in. I have a bluegrass band. We're gonna bring the band in and play, and we're gonna take care of that. But it's gonna be fun. So I also am doing a podcast with you. So that's I might have other podcasts set up for the future and in the past. So the interesting thing about being an ambassador that I have a new person on my team that you met at Travel, Rich.
From Boston, right?
Yeah, from Boston, yes.
Yep.
And real nice kid. And kid, he's 30 years old, but to me, we work with every single department in our company. So we are family owned and operated. Max Shapira is our chief, our executive chief. We have his daughter and son-in-law, Kate and Alan, are the co-presidents. And we work with sales. We work with marketing. We work with production. We work with the distillery and the master distiller. We work with the warehouse teams. We have to know those people with private barrel picks. We work with communications. There might be, I kind of handle the podcast and stuff on my own. I kind of let them know I'm doing them, but I try to do as many as I can. What's the danger of doing a podcast, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's always fun, and even if the podcast only goes out to 6 people, that's 6 more people that I would have talked to, right? So it's okay. But there's also like people who like for Whiskey Advocate magazine or Bourbon Plus magazine or different publications or different websites or the Condé Nast or whatever it is, and the communications kind of sets us up for an interview and things like that. I also have to host consumer events and do tastings and trainings and all kinds of stuff. So I get to work with our distributor partners out in the field as well. So we work with the visitor centers too, or we meet VIPs or get people through. I can't think of one position that works with more people than I did in my team. Okay. And there's a negative of that. There's, we have to drink responsibly always.
Yep.
But we also are drinking. And then you add time and different events. And then how many people were there that night at our event that I could have said the wrong thing and pissed somebody off? And then there's the distributor who had somebody there. They're mad. The bar owner, Mike, he might have been upset. Consumer might have been upset. Our people might have been upset. I mean, so you got to watch. So you're always representing your company every minute, and you really can't let your guard down.
So, question 4, drink 4. What are we drinking?
Question 4, drink 4. We are enjoying the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond.
Very nice.
This is, if anybody knows me, they know that I love bottle and bond. You love spoons, and I love bottle and bond. Right? There we go. So bottle and bond to me, that is the watershed moment that changed American spirits. So March 3rd, 1897, the very first consumer protection legislation in the history of the United States is the Bottle and Bond Act. And before that, there were no purity laws. There were no consumer protection laws. So you could put anything you want in a bottle and slap a bourbon label on it and call it bourbon. So in order to be called Bottle and Bond, it is the most restricted spirits. Every one of these words on this label, whiskey, bourbon, straight, and Kentucky, means something individually and collectively on a bottle, right? So when it says bottle and bond, so you got to pass all those ones. I would say these are like medals that military men and women are. Whiskey medal. You can't just be made from agave. You can't be made from sugar cane or molasses. You can't be made from fruits. It has to be made from grain for a whiskey. And then you have to be aged in oak to be whiskey, right? And then bourbon. Bourbon is not just grains. It's a minimum 51% corn. And then there's a certain oak you have to be aged in, which is brand new and charred. There's different degrees of proof to come off the still and into the barrel. And then straight is an age statement. Straight's 2 years old in those types of barrels.
Okay.
Kentucky is the state of distillation. So if you make this up in New York, you could call it New York straight bourbon whiskey. But this is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So those are those medals. You want to earn those and you wear them on your chest with pride.
Okay.
But if it says bottle and bond, you have to earn all these medals, and then you have to earn the medal that stands for It's from one distillery, the product of one distillery in one distilling season. The same class of materials, the same class of spirits. I can't take two different spirits and mingle them together. It has to stand on its own. It has to be from one distilling season, which is a finite number of barrels you can fill in a 6-month period, January through June or July through December. Pure water only to be added to get it down to 100 degrees of proof. So right there, pure water only, we have a purity law. It has to be aged for a minimum of not just 2 years for straight whiskey, but double that, 4 years. So now I'm guaranteed a good age, and I'm guaranteed purity. And then bourbon can be bottled at 80 proof and higher, all the way up to barrel proof. Bottle and bond must be bottled at exactly 100 degrees of proof. So no variation on the proof, not 99.9, not 101, exactly 100, which is a proof gallon. That's really okay. That's what we pay taxes on. So then when we dump it, we also have to put it in the bottle. We have to put the name of the distillery, the trademark or the trade name. So we own like Mellow Corn, we own Liza Craig, we own that. So if you're confused about that, we have to put the distilled spirits plant number or the DSP. Okay. That's a serial number if you have a gun, right? So it's on there. So it's from DSP, Distilled Spirits Plant, KY, because we're in Kentucky, and our number is 1 because we're the best. Then if it's bottled at another plant, you got to put that on there. So it says DSP KY31. You can't get any more clear transparency than bottle and bond. So I describe bottle and bond as the green beret or Navy SEAL of spirits. It has all the metals. So why wouldn't you want every single one? You're guaranteed a good age, a good strength, and purity. And that was important in 1897 and very important now. So this happens to be 7 years old. The minimum you can be for a bottle and bond is 4. And that's what Mellow Corn was. And you don't have to put an age statement if it's 4 years or higher. But this has an age statement of 7 years. Okay. So this, if you do state an age, every drop must be a minimum of that age. But with bottle and bond, it can't be 8 years old, right? Because it's from one distilling season. So it is very restricted. It's so restricted. So cheers.
Cheers.
And for the price of this, $50 or so a bottle, you know, it's one single age, so you're not going to get a ton of depth and complexity other than the barrel notes. And after 6 or 7 good years, there's some good depth and complexity from the barrel notes.
Yep.
And you're starting to get some wood character after that amount of time. And this can just be enjoyed neat. Make some pretty good cocktails. The 100 proof stands up with the ingredients, but boy, on the rocks, just by itself.
Oh, by itself, it's fucking glorious. Like it really is, just absolutely.
Where this came out, if you recall, and I have also a line that says nobody cares about awards until you win one.
Absolutely, yes.
They all, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you win one, you want to brag about it.
Yep.
But this was named the number 4 whiskey of the world by Whiskey Advocate at Whiskey Fest up in New York when it first came out.
This is it's absolutely just.
So if you think about where this plays, okay? So how do I equate this? What do I put this up with? Well, it's pretty simple. Being bottle and bonds, there's not many of them. So, there's only about 100 bottle and bonds in the world. In any given state, there's only about 20. Here in Kentucky, we have an embarrassment of riches because we have some that are only available in Kentucky we can't get. So we have about 30 here in Kentucky. So if you look at it over at Buffalo Trace, they have a great line called E.H. Taylor.
Yep.
Most of that line is bottle and bond. And, the small batch is around $50 a bottle if you can get it. The single barrel is around $80 if you can get it. The rye is around that if you can get it. And here is a 7-year-old product for $50, and those other products have no age statement on it and are way higher. Right? Yeah. And they're phenomenal. I'm not saying, hey, we're a bigger distillery than they are, so we use that to our advantage. I'm not saying they're not as good. There's a reason they have to charge what they charge, right? So it's not They're not ripping you off. It's just, it is what it is. Then at Old Forester, they're $18.97. That's $50 a bottle, same price. That doesn't have an age statement on it.
Yep.
I tell you, they know how old it is. It's from one season and whatever. So they're not trying to hide anything. They just don't want to be restricted by that one particular age. So I can't blame them for that. We make a lot more bourbon than they do. So we're able to put a 7-year age statement on it because of the size and capacity that we have. And we use that to our advantage just to show that, everybody makes great bourbon, but a lot of age statements are going away or gone. And this one, being a bottle and bond, I think it makes the statement out.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I was hoping we would bring this out at 8 years old. But we had always had an 8-year-old back in the day, way back. We never had a 7-year-old. So it's kind of cool, And then it won number 4 whiskey in the world. What are you gonna change it?
Yeah. You can't. Again, nobody cares until you win the award. So
nobody cares until you win.
Yeah. Well, so question 4 then. I mean, Heaven Hill is known for basically bottle and bond. You are known for really kind of the resurgence of bringing bottle and bond back to the forefront. Yeah. And so the laws and rules really haven't changed since 1964. And with like American single malt kind of opening up as its own category, do you think that like bottled and bond will still stay its niche category, or do you think it will start to expand and the rules change a little bit, or kind of grow into a much bigger subcategory or even a category on itself?
Well, the cool thing about the way that the laws are put down is that they don't have to change at all to affect single malt. It's weird. I don't even understand why this debate's happening with single malt. Malt is already defined.
Yeah.
American malt whiskey is already defined. But the single malt part's not. And I don't care. I don't have a dog in the fight. It's fine. You can make a single malt all you want. It won't affect the bottle and bond part. Bottle and bond is a designation for any domestically made spirit. So it doesn't matter if you have single rye or single corn or whatever you come up with. It also covers vodka and gin, and rum. As long as you make it in the United States, you can make it bottled and bond if you follow those. And that's specifically spelled out with gin and vodka too, on how it has to be aged in a barrel or oak container. It doesn't say barrel because you could use a box if you wanted. But if for gin and vodka, you must be lined with paraffin so that the spirit doesn't touch the wood.
Okay.
How thing is that? So you're aging it, but you're not affecting it. Huh. Wonder where that came in. Well, it sounds like a bunch of whiskey people probably made them a few $100 handshakes, made them put it in there to, if we got to wait 4 years, damn it, they got to wait 4 years, right?
Yeah.
But it makes it a cool law. So it doesn't matter, Tim, what other spirit you come up with. Bottle and bond stays the same. You still just have to pass that. So it kind of makes it easy, right? It doesn't make it complicated at all. You just still, whatever you make, you have to follow these other restrictions, and then you can call it bottle and bond.
Do you think that category will keep growing? Because like you said, like there's only like 30, like some nation or globally that are bottled and bond. Like, do you think that more people will start doing more bottled and bond kind of thing? Like, do you think it will break out of the niche into a sub? I guess is what
it already is. Because when I started in 2005, there was just a handful. When I started at Heaven Hill in 2012, there was only about 16, as I remember, in the entire universe. And Heaven Hill made 10 of them, right? Or whatever. Now, just a few years ago, there was about 20 or 30. And now you can go and look at the TTB website and see that there's 100 applications for bottle and bonds. You can see how many are applying for it. So there are now, and I say around because I don't know, because I don't live in Colorado and I don't know which ones are available. I know AD Laws is up there doing it. But what really happened, again, I'm a 2.6 cumulative Rhodes Scholar, ROAD scholar, that I noticed things. But when Wilderness Trail and New Riff waited 4 years and never came out with a product that wasn't bottle and bond, that they made that their thing, that they were going to make sure, because when I started in 2005, there was 10 distilleries in Kentucky, 2 outside of Kentucky. Now there's 70 in Kentucky and 2,300 outside of Kentucky. How are you going to compete with those 2,300? You're going to do things that they can't do. And if they can't make enough in a 6-month period to make a bottle and bond, that sets you apart. So New Riff and Wilderness Trail, and now what Alan Bishop is doing up at the Spirits of French Lick in Indiana, he's coming out with a lot of bottle and bonds. So, and now we're coming out with more bottle and bonds as we can with the decanter series with the Old Fitzgerald and now. Jack Daniels, of all people, came out with 2 bottle and bonds, and Dickel has a bottle and bond. Yep. I mean, I never thought in my wildest dreams, I've stood up in front of people and said, you will never see Jack Daniels a bottle and bond, and you will never see an age statement on bottle and bond, and now I've got to eat my words on both of them. So,
got to eat a lot of crow on that one.
I was saying they're focused on one thing. So it made me so happy to see that in both Dickel and Jack won Best Whiskey of the World.
Yep.
And we had won it with Henry McKenna before. So of all the bottle and bonds that are out there, 4 of them have won Best whiskey of the world, right?
Yeah.
So it must be. So now I am encouraging liquor stores, retail stores, to put in bottle and bond sections. Have you seen in your store, local stores, where they have put ryes in their own section? Rye whiskey?
No, that's still considered whiskey. Like they just keep it as the whiskey.
Well, down here in a lot of places, they're putting ryes because it's just getting too confusing on the shelf. So I followed that up and said, well, let's put in bottle and bond sections. What if you come here and people are so tired of coming in and saying, no, we don't have Blanton's. No, we don't have Old Fitzgerald. No, we don't have Parker's. No, we don't have Weller. Well, how about something from our bottle and bond section? What are those? The rarest spirits on the planet.
Right,
They're the Green Beret of spirits. Why would you want every single one, right? So it helps the consumer, especially people looking for gifts. Like, wow, I can do something. So we've got 44 stores in Indiana. And now we just started to roll around the country of places would have a dedicated bottle and bond section that you can always go see the new bottle and bonds. Yeah. And it's amazing.
That's awesome. What came first, the tattoo or working at Heaven Hill?
The tattoo came way before.
Okay. So what was there a bottle?
So here is a bottle and bond section in I don't know if you can see. All that section's all bottle and bonds.
Okay.
At Liquor Barn here in Louisville. So in 2007, I got this tattoo.
Okay.
And I also, I got this bottle, and it was distilled in 1917. It was full at the time.
Right.
And brought out in 1932. So 1917 to 1932. So on my birthday one year, I opened this and shared with friends.
Wow.
I said, I'm not Fred No. I was a Jim Beam at the time. I'm not Parker Beam over at Heaven Hill. I'm not Jimmy Russell and Eddie Russell. I'm not a distiller on top of it. I'm not a family member or distiller. I'm this little guy on the side that may or might not have a job in a year, right? Pastor, I'm not a family member. How am I got to do something. I got to find something that's mine. And I got to make that my thing. And I've got to own it. And my very first bourbon that was mine, that wasn't my dad's, who drank Heaven Hill 6-year-old 90 proof, or my mom's. And she drank highballs. She always drank ginger ale and whatever bourbon my dad had. She didn't really have a brand in mind, but my dad had that Heaven Hill 6-year 90. And I was up in Ohio, and man, I had Old Granddad Bottle and Bond, and it was, and it's still one of my favorite brands.
There you go. That was, again, you answered the second question, so that's fucking amazing.
So I said to my friends, we were drinking this, and I said, you know what? When I was only supposed to talk about Knob Creek and Jim Beam.
Okay.
That's where the money comes from. I didn't know how business worked, 2.6 cumulative. So, so you talk about where the money comes from. And I'm like, but I love Old Granddad. They go, you don't be talking about Old Granddad. I'm like, well, why would you make me make it? Why can I talk? I can talk about it. Right. And, but that just became my thing. And even Fred No goes, hey, you sign the Old Granddad bottles. I'll sign the Knob Creek bottles, you know. So it just became my thing. And I said, I'm going to bring Bottle and Bond back.
All right. So question 5, drink 5. What are we drinking?
All right. This is Sacred Bond Brandy. It's a Bottle and Bond brandy. So, has to be aged for 4 years in the appropriate types of barrels. This is a brand that Heaven Hill owns, Christian Brothers Brandy, number 3 selling brandy in the United States. So it says Christian Brothers on top there. Christian Brothers Sacred Bond. And I kept noticing around the country in all these different cocktail bars in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, even in Birmingham, Alabama, they have a little bottle of a brand. Sure, I have a bottle around here somewhere, but it's Laird's Apple Brandy.
Okay.
The oldest family-owned distillery in the United States out of New Jersey, Laird's Apple Brandy. And I'm like, well, we have a brandy. Why don't we have a bottle of Bond? So that was my question. And, you know, I've been joking all night about being a 2.6 cumulative marketing degree, but I launched a national brandy brand. So because I was noticing that, and I challenged our brand team. And then one of our spirits educators, Lynn House, she loves brandy and loves Bottle and Bond and loves making cocktails. When she got behind it with me, we kind of championed it through. So one of the cool things about Heaven Hill being family owned and family operated, you know, it sounds good. It feels good to say it. You hear the term thrown around a lot. But one of the things we're having an advantage is that we do things that other people can't or won't do because of their business model, which is being owned by Wall Street and stockholders. So to have a, very small 10,000 case brand, most people have killed them.
Yeah.
And they're not going to put up with it. Well, Max Shapiro and Kate Allen go, well, what if, you remember 12 years ago, there was only like 4 rye whiskeys on the market. Now there's hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, what corn whiskey is the next one? We're ready. We've got age stock ready to go, and we have that advantage over our competitors.
Nice.
So we have a brandy. There's no Bottle and Bond great brandy. Even Laird's is an apple brandy. So most people were making brandy cocktails like a sidecar or a stinger or a French 75, whatever, with a $50 bottle of cognac, which is 80 proof.
Yeah.
Well, 100 proof stands up in the cocktail better. So, and this is $25 a bottle, right? So, again, we know who's using this. It's not really people at home, but I love drinking it if I'm doing something like this, and I don't drink home much, so this is nice.
There you go.
And it is a great brand, small little brand, little niche market, but we have, I think, the only Bottle and Bond great brandy on the planet. So it takes a family-owned company to do it. So cheers.
Cheers.
My baby.
And again, I love a good brand. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so the brandy old fashioned is key to our house. And like you mentioned squirt. So like again, a brandy old fashioned is made with, if you want a sour one, it's made with squirt. If you want a sweet one, it's made with 7-Up. So it's just
So just like Bottle and Bond has to be, you have to put the DSP, and this is full transparency. So of course we don't make brandy at Heaven Hill. We source this from O'Neill Distillery out of California. So this is SP CA 399. Just show you that to show that there's pure transparency. That there's no hiding with Bardem. And so this is a really, drinking this on the rocks or by itself is pretty damn cool. This is aged on once you have a Williams barrel, so there's a little bit of bourbon in there. But I'm not, I love cognacs and armagnacs.
Yep.
And so now I have something that we make that I can enjoy. I was drinking it last night at my little dive bar down the street, Left Field Lounge and the Highlands Bar and Grill.
Nice.
And picked up bottles just for me because I told them that's my baby. Carry it and I'll buy it.
Very nice. All right. So question 5 comes down to the flip of the Whiskey Wednesday coin. You can flip it, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to answer. The coin will give us the answer.
Okay.
But you can answer if you want. Question 5. Are the Bottled and Bond Boys going on tour anytime soon?
Absolutely. We're going to be Monday night at Trouble Bar right here in town, which is a bar that's started, owned, and operated by women. So a bourbon bar owned by women.
Nice.
It's called Trouble Bar because one of our favorite sons is Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
And they have pictures of him and John Lewis and Rosa Parks and other people that made good trouble. So it's called Trouble Bar.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Bernie, that's 5 questions answered, 5 questions down, or five questions answered, 5 drinks down. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a true pleasure, sir. Again, cheers to you. And again, till we get to drink again in person, I can't wait. So if it's me and Kentucky or you back here in New York, so I hope that we can drink together very soon.
Please do. When you come down to Kentucky, let me know, and hopefully you come see the Bottled and Bond Boys play.
There we go. Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on. Stay bonded.